exclusive look at a Homeland Security task force focused on targeting and dismantling drug tunnel operations.
Homeland Security says they discovered the tunnel after police pulled over the owner of the former KFC.
At 4 hours and 3 minutes in the morning, the silence of the Arizona desert was shattered by the advance of more than 3,200 federal agents in the largest raid operation in the state's history. A sophisticated criminal network with fortified cross-border tunnels as solid as subway systems and anonymous control servers was exposed. But the most shocking part was not just the tons of prohibited goods or the massive weapons arsenal, but the deep infiltration by a mysterious architect into the most essential infrastructure facilities of America. What secret lies beneath the Arizona soil, and who is the mastermind behind this trillion-dollar operation? Join us as we decode it right now. They produce prohibited compounds. They refine dangerous pharmaceuticals. They operate large-scale production facilities. At 4 hours and 3 minutes in the morning, the peaceful picture of the Arizona desert changed completely. More than 3,200 federal agents moved into positions across the state, preparing to strike at 147 locations linked to a threat that had quietly grown within United States territory. Investigators suspect the presence of a criminal network closely connected to CJNG, one of the most active illegal pharmaceutical producers in the Western Hemisphere and a group long targeted by United States sanctions. This is not an ordinary law enforcement action. It is the opening move in a direct confrontation between the United States and a mysterious architect who has shaped an underground criminal network right beneath the surface of Arizona. As the operation began, officials realized that they had only uncovered the first layer of a much larger structure waiting in the shadows. The discoveries that followed will force the entire country to rethink the true meaning of border security. Before we delve deeper into the buried tunnels beneath this landscape, make sure to follow military news sources so you never miss deeper investigations behind operations like this. Federal investigators reached a critical turning point when they discovered 5 reinforced tunnels running from Mexico into Arizona. This discovery marked the moment the case shifted from a routine prohibited substances investigation into a direct threat to national security. The tunnels were not makeshift passages created for a single shipment. They represented a long-term project built with careful engineering, and they revealed how deeply organized crime had penetrated beneath an area considered stable and predictable. The investigation began many months earlier when analysts noticed a sudden increase in medical emergency cases across several counties in Arizona. Hospitals reported clusters of emergency cases involving potent compounds in patterns indicating a stable supply with high purity. At the same time, patrol units observed unusual nighttime movements along remote desert roads. Vehicles appeared on trails rarely used by the public, and some left tire tracks that did not match the local traffic. Warehouse managers near the border also submitted reports of suspicious activity inside facilities believed to be inactive. These initial signs prompted federal teams to expand their surveillance scope and examine the possibility of underground movement, a tactic already documented in previous cross-border cases. When ground sensors and aerial scans confirmed unusual heat signals beneath the surface, agents began a systematic search. They knew that some tunnels discovered in previous years had been built with concrete walls, ventilation systems, and lighting strong enough to support long-distance transport. Some extended nearly 3,000 feet, carrying goods directly beneath the border. With this history in mind, the sudden anomalies detected near the southern corridor of Arizona immediately raised concerns. The investigation intensified until field teams found the first entrance concealed behind a fake warehouse wall. That tunnel led to 4 others, each hidden inside locations that appeared harmless on the surface. The tunnel structures demonstrated a level of preparation that surprised even experienced personnel. Reinforced concrete lining the interiors prevented collapse and allowed stable movement. An electrical wiring system supplying power to a chain of lights remained operational despite their locations being underground. Ventilation machinery kept air circulating through the passages, and steel rails laid along the floor allowed carts to move heavy goods with very little effort. The design resembled a miniature subway system built entirely out of sight. This level of construction indicated significant investment and long-term planning far beyond what small groups could accomplish. At the end of each tunnel, investigators found large storage areas containing 62 sealed containers. When opened, these containers revealed prohibited compounds in both pill and powder forms, along with other industrial blocks of goods. Large bundles of cash were stored alongside tightly wrapped shipments to avoid detection. Labels on the packages matched symbols that federal agencies had previously linked to CJNG in prior seizures. The consistency of these markings left little doubt that the same organization had designed and supplied the shipments. This discovery confirmed that CJNG had established a physical foothold inside the United States by building infrastructure beneath Arizona. Rather than relying on short-term smuggling efforts, the group had constructed a stable underground logistics pipeline. The tunnel served as the first structural layer of a larger system that investigators believe extends far beyond state boundaries. This discovery forced officials to reassess the scale of the threat and prepare for the possibility that the tunnels were only the beginning. Additional evidence would be needed to understand the full scope of the network, and that search would lead investigators deeper into the system powering the flow of illegal goods across the region. The operation reached its decisive moment at 4 hours and 3 minutes in the morning. As federal teams launched a coordinated assault across Arizona, this action marked the start of the largest federal raid in the state's history, and it followed weeks of preparation inside a secure command center. The scale of the deployment reflected the severity of the threat uncovered during the investigation. Agencies that typically conduct separate missions joined together under a unified structure designed to dismantle a complex criminal network that had grown across multiple areas. The planning for the operation took place inside a facility built for high-risk coordination. Analysts reviewed intelligence from surveillance flights, ground sensors, and financial tracking systems. Each team received a clear description of its responsibilities, and planners ensured that movements would be synchronized to prevent any suspects from receiving warnings. The operation followed the style of large federal task forces used in national cases involving prohibited distribution. It included personnel from the FBI, DEA, HSI, CBP, and United States Marshals Service. State-level tactical units and local police departments also contributed officers, forming a combined force of more than 3,200 members. The carrier air wing forces received the alert simultaneously. MH-60R helicopters assigned to anti-submarine tasks were prepared to launch immediately. The federal teams understood that any delay would give suspects time to destroy evidence or flee to secondary locations. For that reason, the command center had established a common timeline. Teams were instructed to move only when they received a single radio signal that would activate across all channels. That moment arrived precisely at 4 hours and 3 minutes in the morning when the command issued the order putting the entire deployment into motion. The impact of the coordinated advance was visible immediately. Helicopters equipped for night operations moved over Phoenix and Tucson to provide aerial support and monitor ground movements. Their infrared systems allowed them to identify heat signals around the target locations. Armored vehicles moved through residential areas to support entry teams and block escape routes. These vehicles provided additional protection for the agents who were expected to face armed resistance at certain locations. SWAT teams positioned at the front of each group used specialized tools to enter buildings quickly. Breaching devices enabled them to break through reinforced doors that criminal groups had installed to delay law enforcement. Entry teams trained to move efficiently through narrow hallways and storage rooms, and their tactics were shaped by prior intelligence indicating how some locations had been modified to slow government access. The operation focused on 47 targets identified during the investigation. These locations included residential properties used as warehouses, warehouses labeled as agricultural facilities, small offices connected to shell companies, and apartments suspected of housing mid-level coordinators. Some targets were part of transportation hubs where goods could be transferred between vehicles without attracting attention. Each location had been selected after analysts confirmed that it played a role in moving or storing prohibited goods. As teams advanced into the first wave of locations, some encounters demonstrated how organized and well-prepared the network had become. In several buildings, armed individuals attempted to block entry routes. Tactical units responded with smoke devices to limit visibility and create a controlled environment that reduced risks for officers. Stun devices were used in situations where suspects refused to surrender. These tools allowed teams to complete their entries without causing unnecessary harm and to secure areas before evidence could be destroyed. At other locations, agents encountered trained guard dogs deployed to protect property. K-9 units working with federal teams helped neutralize these threats and ensure that facility searches could proceed safely. Drone support also played a critical role. Aerial drones monitored rooftops and alleys and alerted teams to movements in areas not visible from the ground. This system ensured that escape attempts were detected in real time. By the end of the initial wave, federal agents had gained control of every target location. The success of the assault at 4 hours and 3 minutes in the morning demonstrated the effectiveness of multi-agency cooperation and the value of extensive preparation. The synchronized entries prevented suspects from coordinating a response. It also paved the way for investigators to conduct detailed examinations of the locations and identify connections that would help them understand the larger structure behind the criminal network. The subsequent discoveries would reveal how deeply entrenched the organization had become and why the operation needed to continue beyond the initial phase. What do you think about the sophistication level of the fortified underground tunnels resembling subway systems that CJNG built under the Arizona desert? Analysis of shipping logs and encrypted phone data revealed a professional supply route from Mexico through Arizona to major cities like Chicago and Detroit. The stability and cyclical nature of the shipments showed that the organization had invested systematically to maintain a reliable logistical lifeline. In particular, the seizure of 733 pounds of prohibited goods at one facility confirmed it was a strategic regional coordination hub designed for large-scale and long-term operations rather than serving merely as a temporary transit point. Unusual cash flows ranging from $40,000 to $70,000 every 2 weeks exposed the complicity of individuals within the operational system. With a total amount reaching nearly $480,000 in just 3 months, investigators determined these were payments to buy access and route information. At Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, 5 cargo workers were found receiving opaque periodic payments far exceeding their actual incomes. These financial irregularities reflect a serious scenario of internal infiltration, where security and logistics personnel were bribed to ensure the flow of goods for the transnational criminal organization. The funds appeared in their accounts through digital transfers classified as consulting fees issued by logistics companies that existed only on paper. The deposit pattern showed that the workers were participating in an activity requiring coordination with external actors. Although the exact nature of their involvement is still under review, analysts determined that the payments were linked to the larger trafficking network identified earlier. The discovery of a pipeline moving 2.4 tons of goods monthly prompted authorities to further expand the investigation. They sought to identify the leadership structure responsible for coordinating the shipments and determine the extent of the wrongdoing. These findings reinforce the rationale for ongoing federal involvement and for reforms aimed at reducing opportunities for internal compromise. The next phase of the operation will delve deeper into the organization's command framework, which investigators believe holds the key to completely dismantling the network. Federal investigators began to understand the complexity of the smuggling structure when the same code name appeared repeatedly in documents collected during the initial phase of the operation. The codename El Architecto appeared densely in the encrypted data and payment records, affirming this figure's supreme operational position within the Arizona network. Investigators determined this was the strategic mastermind, the one who designed the entire large-scale operational system with extreme precision. Although the true identity was meticulously concealed behind security devices, analysts still identified a unified command pattern through continuous message streams between the links. All data collected from the storage facilities indicated that this mysterious figure had shaped the organization's complex logistical structure. The communication logs referenced schedules, routing instructions, and operational details that matched the timelines uncovered in the financial analysis. Each data chain traced back to the same coordinating presence. This led investigators to search for additional information in the remaining seized files, particularly those connected to warehouse facilities near Tucson. One of these facilities contained a concealed server operating without any external signs. When technicians examined the system, they discovered that it connected to a remote command location not listed in any standard directories. The link provided real-time access to maps displaying the movement of shipments across multiple states. It also tracked the timing of cargo loads passing through the previously discovered tunnels. The server operated as an information hub, collecting data from multiple sources and relaying it back to the figure identified as El Architecto. The existence of this infrastructure demonstrated a level of planning far beyond field coordination. As investigators pieced together the information, a clearer picture emerged of the role of the individual behind the code name. Evidence indicated that El Architecto had structured the logistics chain from its earliest stages. The layout of the tunnels reflected an understanding of technical requirements, including the need for ventilation and structural support. The coordination of transportation routes demonstrated the ability to calculate timing over long distances, ensuring that shipments moved along predictable paths without interruption. The design of communication channels revealed familiarity with encryption tools as well as a method of distributing operational instructions in a way that minimized exposure. The strategic importance of El Architecto became clearer as analysts compared the findings with past national investigations. In many cases involving international criminal groups, authorities had identified planners who served as architects of the organization's internal systems. These individuals played a role distinct from high-level leaders who controlled territory. They operated more like underground corporations than traditional street-level groups. Evidence gathered in Arizona showed that the network had adopted these methods, and El Architecto appeared to be the central designer behind the transformation. The full results of the operation became clear as federal teams secured all target locations across Arizona. By the end of the initial phase, more than 5,500 suspects had been detained. The individuals held represented a range of roles within the network. Some served as couriers responsible for transportation between local sites, while others acted as mid-level coordinators managing storage points and schedules. Investigators also identified several insiders working in sensitive positions, suspected of providing access or information to support the movement of shipments. The number of arrests reflected the depth of the network and confirmed that the operation had targeted an expanded structure far beyond the individuals encountered at the surface level. As arrests continued, federal agencies deployed evidence transport vehicles to collect recovered documents from the locations. Long lines of trucks moved between the sites and secure processing centers. Each load contained items that would later be analyzed to understand the full scope of the operation. The massive volume of documents and seized evidence exposed the unprecedented scale of this organization's operations, far surpassing any records in previous federal cases. Agents not only recovered weapons and encrypted communication devices, but also confiscated a large quantity of prohibited substances sufficient to produce millions of doses, proving the existence of a stable supply line and long-term storage capacity. In addition, the discovery of millions of dollars in cash scattered across the state, corresponding to profits from the pipeline transporting 2.4 tons monthly, showed that the network still prioritized direct transactions for security. These findings confirmed that the organization was fully prepared for rapid distribution to other regions, creating an extremely sophisticated organized crime system. The greatest lesson drawn from this event is that vigilance is never excessive in the face of potential security vulnerabilities hidden in everyday life. We see that modern crime does not operate only in remote border areas, but can also infiltrate regular job positions and digital platforms for exploitation. Every individual, from operational employees to local residents, plays a role as a link in the national protection network. Recognizing unusual signs and maintaining professional ethics is the strongest barrier to prevent transnational organizations from exploiting shared infrastructure, ensuring sustainable safety for the entire society. Operation Desert Citadel is not just a large-scale raid, but also a wake-up call about the sophistication of modern criminal organizations when they dare to penetrate right into the core of national infrastructure. The fortified tunnels, the anonymous architects, and the network of insiders at airports show that the war to protect border security is entering a completely new chapter, more complex and arduous than ever before. Do you think technological reforms and community vigilance are enough to prevent these underground networks from recurring? What do you think about this frightening level of transnational crime infiltration? Feel free to leave your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to continue joining us in the upcoming investigations.